Yeah, we just record. Editing's
Oh.
editing's magical. Don't worry.
Okay.
We all look like billionaires with perfect abs when we're done. Don't worry about a thing. Yeah. No. Anyway.
Is there a filter for that?
Yeah. There's an app at this point, I'm pretty sure. Welcome to Beers and Stories. I can't thank you enough for being here with me on this journey. This is the podcast where we talk business, real estate, success, and failure over a cold glass of something delicious. I'm really excited to continue on this journey with everyone, and I appreciate you liking, subscribing, and getting feedback on YouTube or wherever your favorite podcast hosting platform may be. Let's get this going. Well, guys, welcome back to another episode of Beers and Stories. I appreciate you being here. We are here in lovely Oak Creek Village. Yeah, Oak Creek Village in Sedona, Arizona. I've got Ken Kilday with me. So, Ken, tell everybody hello.
Hello.
Yeah, and thank you for being here. I really appreciate
My pleasure.
it.
So 2-minute drive from the house, I can make it.
Lucky you, and I'm always happy to come up to high country in the summertime. So it all works out. So, again, I really appreciate you being here and sitting down and talking to me. Ken and I know each other kind of through the fitness world, and that's kind of morphed into the business world. You run in probably higher circles than I do, but some of the same, working on it. So I really wanted to kind of get, your story, and I know you've had some jobs, and then you've launched off onto your own. What's it been, a couple years now?
It's not even quite a year yet.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because after I left corporate America, I did take a few months to myself.
Nice.
Before I launched a whole new thing.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah, where do you want me to start? First, there was light.
Sure.
We'll go in reverse order. Right now, I have an executive coaching business. So
Okay.
I work with entrepreneurs and corporate executives, basically business leaders.
Okay.
And we work on helping them find their flow,
Okay.
unlocking their own natural genius
Okay.
and that of their team, and finding ways where they might be getting in their own way and get them out of their own way.
Wow.
And then also finding ways that they're already really good at some things, they just do a little more of it. I think most business leaders have this sense of they're already working so hard,
Sure.
with their head down, focused, that they don't have time for anything else.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's unpacking that and getting to the heart of. Sometimes it's the habit that's in our way.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of great examples. Coach Dungy has written books, been interviewed, and been written about. Where was the sense of when he was a coach in Tampa Bay, and then later on with the Colts, he had a unique way of coaching and getting them to focus on really specific things.
Okay.
And then they'd be in a critical game and a clutch moment, and they'd go back to their old ways. And the question is, why did you do that?
Sure.
Well, it was such an important moment. I didn't want to leave it to this new thing.
Oh boy. So all that work out the window.
All the work out the window because
brutal.
New habits are harder. So sometimes when I'm working with business leaders across all different kinds of businesses, it's letting go of things that we've been doing because that's the way we've always done them and trying something new.
How hard is that process to implement? Like, in other words, getting someone who's at that level, right? They're functioning at that high owner driver type level.
Sure.
To let go of stuff.
Well, if they're already working with me, they're already. It would be analogous to you hire a personal trainer, not to tell you that you're handsome. You hire them to tell you you're not lifting that right.
Gotcha.
Here, let me show you. It's
Sure.
the perspective piece. Same
Okay.
thing. Swing coach is really like a golfing swing coach. The coach is standing at a different angle. You cannot see yourself that way. Even if you had a mirror, it would be in reverse.
Sure.
And it's small micro changes that make a huge difference.
Sure.
Right? A swing coach, you can make a very tiny move, and that's a one-stroke difference in a golf game, which is also known as a championship.
Sure.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah. Oh,
So
one stroke wins or loses a lot.
Right.
Oh.
I think executive leaders, in my experience, leading, sometimes we can be so focused on, no, I have to deliver this right now, that some of the things that we're doing will have negative attached to them 3 to 5 years from now.
Really?
Because I have to do this right now could end up maybe somebody ends up leaving. Maybe we're putting so much pressure on people to deliver this very instant that we're also not developing them and keeping our arms around
so
them.
So not playing the long game, in other words. Short-term gain for long-term sacrifice.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. The other,
Interesting.
the huge talk right now inside of business is all about scale. Scale. They mean different things with it, of course.
So how to get big fast, in other words.
And without expenses going up, right? And the way employees will often hear it is, you want more out of me
for the same amount
price.
of money. That sounds terrible, by the way. Don't help them do that.
Well, it's a lot of time in companies. A lot of times they think that's what technology is for.
Okay, in other words, replacing or supplementing the human element. Yeah, which works typically right up until it doesn't.
Exactly. Because it's not technology works to replace mundane, repeatable things.
Sure.
Beautifully. So anytime you can put human beings in any sort of interaction that's relationship-based and replace some silly thing they were doing with a machine so that they have more time for the human piece, that's scale. But I think scale is really about the leadership component.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's developing the people at the top to bring their team up with them.
Right.
Okay.
Right. If you think of, so the formula for exponential growth, also known as compound interest, is A, so that you start with, multiplied times 1 plus a rate of return, minus if it's a loss, raised to the X power, which is time in the formula.
Okay.
So in leadership, A is just how you arrive as a leader. And you don't have to be a former leader to be a leader. You could also be the go-to guy or gal.
Okay.
So A is how you arrive. R is how real you are. If you're real, it's a plus. If you're not, it's a minus.
Okay. Makes sense.
Then raising it to the X, that's who you develop. That's developing other people to be better than you are.
Aha.
And that takes self-confidence, emotional intelligence, all of those other little fun buzzwords.
Do you teach all of that stuff as well?
I work. I don't say I teach it. I work with them on all of those.
Okay.
There's 2 segments, and you've had talent dynamics. You know that's where I start. Is to create self-awareness. Who am I, and how do I show up?
Sure.
And then, how do I, rather than seeing the world through my own lens, how do I put myself in someone else's shoes? Well,
gotcha.
If I'm this profile, and it doesn't matter which one you use, whether it's DISC or Myers-Briggs or anything else, once you know how you show up, you, the leader, then you have a better appreciation for how others see the world, and then you know how to translate. You can think of it as learning a second language.
Yeah.
Right?
I've struggled through that in business a lot.
If you're talking to somebody that's just like you, you know that language.
Oh, sure. That part's easy.
If you're speaking, for instance, somebody that my compliment style would be somebody that's highly analytical.
Okay.
So if I really want to reach somebody like that, I need to be very detail focused. I want to have a complete story. I want to have as much information as possible, and I don't want to leave anything out.
So you're speaking their language. Which is, whereas, from my perspective, I'm like, I don't need to know how to build a watch. I just need to know what time it is.
Yeah.
I don't care about any of that. Just get it done.
Right.
And that doesn't always work. And
if you're talking to somebody else that's like that, it sure does.
Sure. Like I said, it works right up until it doesn't.
Right. Exactly.
The wrong person. Well, that's very cool. So you're here, and you're obviously you're coaching, and you're working with all these people. So give me the cliff notes. How did you arrive at this? You didn't grow up being a leadership coach, right? So tell me about that story and that kind of transition.
It was, learning to coach and lead is a function of having done it.
Okay.
So prior to launching my own business, I was a corporate executive. I had responsibility for 3 businesses. I had 7 leaders reporting to me, 12 leaders in my organization, and 135 people.
That sounds exhausting.
And, the 3 businesses, I had one that was a new business, one that was a high growth story, and one that was needed an update, if you will. Bringing it up to more what modern clients were looking for.
Okay.
So great just a great experience for how to build and grow. It was really taking everything I'd already done and accelerating it tenfold. So went well. We built a new product. We launched the new product. We grew the new product. And there was a point where it's like, of all the things I get to do in a day, the people part of the equation, coaching, was what I loved the most.
That's what you truly enjoyed.
It's my favorite part of every single day. And we had a long-term plan of ultimately we were going to move up here, retire. We'd owned the house up here now for 7 years. So it was always a long-term component.
Sure.
We thought, we could make that happen a lot sooner.
Okay.
So giving you a much shorter version of it, but we made that happen. It was my boss and I having a conversation in January, announcing in February, departing at the end of March. So it was that's a pretty decent amount of, because in corporate America usually it's hey, Darwin's leaving. But now
he actually just left and he's not coming back.
He's actually don't email him.
Desk is cleared, bounce backs, the whole 9 yards.
We cleared the office. Don't go looking for a stapler.
Yeah. Wow.
So we had a nice long transition. I finished up. We were doing some town halls, traveling around the country. I finished up all of those. Finished up some webinars.
Do you mind me asking, what type of a product were you launching at that point?
Oh, it was a financial planning offer.
Okay.
Delivered digitally.
Okay.
So all the planners, they were in remote locations all over the country. They had video cameras. The portfolio component of it was all robo.
Okay.
And what we were looking to do was set up teams where we had an outline of these are the hard and fast components that every single client would look for.
Okay.
And then giving them plenty of room to be themselves. So there was that sense of realness, because each one of them could put their own stamp on it.
So you provided a framework, and then they could put their own personal touches on top of it.
Yeah, completely interactive, so the client could go into the software, put information in, have a complete interaction with a certified financial planner.
Oh, very cool.
And then on their mobile device, the client that is on the mobile device, they could update information. We used aggregation tools, so even when clients had accounts in other places, that all showed up in the plan.
Oh, that's fantastic. Because I know I have a family member and then a bunch of friends who are in the financial industry, and they all complain about it. Onboarding a new client is a nightmare, right? Because they've got accounts all over the map. No one can remember all the stupid passwords, right? Yeah. And the first 2 months of their interaction is like, hey, did you remember that password? Because I need it. And just aggregating all that stuff is a mess. Oh.
Right. So it was... It was heavy on how do we bring all the best of technology and all the best of human beings and pair them up. Okay, wow. And it was phenomenal. I worked with some of the most amazing people in the industry. The digital team was, they're unbelievably good.
Yeah, just top notch.
They're just, wow. And part of it is their leadership, for one, their sense of approachability, their knowledge, and that sense of, and this goes in all business, of important to just, let's get out there. We're not going to wait till we're perfect. Let's get out there, because whatever it is we think is perfect, client's going to tell us what they really want. Sure. So let's get stuff in front of them so they can keep telling us.
That's incredibly self-aware, actually, because I've heard, I was told when I first got in business that there's good and there's good enough. Right? And then the other one was don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Absolutely. Right? And those were very difficult lessons for me to learn. I mean, I'd still screw them up to this day on occasion, because you want everything, you want to have thought of every contingency and done everything you can when you get out there. But the fact that they're able to do, to put the product out and say, you know what, they'll let us know.
Yeah, they will. And I think there can be a side effect of if I wait till I think it's perfect and I release it, and then clients tell me, it's not really what I was looking for.
What does that do to the headspace, right?
Now I start to get in my way a little bit.
Yeah.
Where
how often do you see that in business?
Oh, frequently.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah. They walking through the hesitation in general. Sure. Is what gets in a lot of people's way.
I believe that.
They don't want to say the wrong thing. They don't want to do the wrong thing.
that fear of screwing up or looking stupid or whatever else. So, and that, I guess, getting rid of that. I mean, how do you approach that in your coaching, where the ability? I mean, a lot of people talk about vulnerability and being real and all this sort of thing, and I've heard a lot of different approaches, some more interesting than others, we'll put it, but how do you integrate that into your coaching? Like, because I know a lot of people, especially, I've worked with a lot of type A's, right? These are drivers, they want things done, but they're terrified, or they do everything in their power to never appear wrong, right?
Yeah, it depends on the person. It has to be highly customized because generally they're running pretty hard in their own space.
Gotcha.
And business leaders, I think the go-to is anytime there's an issue, I'll just work more hours. I'll stay at the office longer.
Sure.
But there's that somehow that's always the answer, and sometimes that's not the answer.
So how do you make that determination?
Well, it's a conversation. It's getting to the heart of asking them what they think is wrong. If I'm doing a full team effectiveness engagement, I'm talking to their team. Right? By design, that's what they've asked me to do.
Gotcha.
And the way that works is the leader and I have a conversation, and she says, here's the vision I have, here's the mission, this is what I think my team is doing, this is how I think they perceive me, this is where I think the issues are, and then we craft an interview.
Okay.
How would you like me to interview them? What questions shall we ask? And then we profile the whole team as well.
Gotcha. So you'll get the leader out of the room, be able to talk to the team
I do one-on-ones.
Okay.
Interview each one of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, and then you get to bring all that back together and let everybody know.
Sure.
How interesting does that get?
Pretty interesting.
Yeah. I can only imagine.
Yeah. Sometimes it's. I think there's moments where the leader gets to be really aware of. They know exactly how they're showing up.
Really?
Good, bad, or indifferent. They know. Now they have the information.
Yeah.
It's what they do after that.
Sure. So those have got to be, I mean, you've had to have a couple of tough presentations, right? So you talk to a leader of some type. They say, hey, this is what I think. This is my perception of myself within my team. And then you go interview the team, and Houston, we have a problem, right?
Well, sure. Yeah.
So and then how do you bring all that back together? So Mr. Leader, you've done your thing. You've built this business to here. You're obviously stuck, or Miss Leader, or whatever. Right. By the way, this is the perception. What do we do about it?
Well, I approach it just as I would as a leader with people I care about. Is honestly, with candor and care. I'm never. I'm not nasty about it. I'm not. I watch the tone that I use.
Sure.
And it's here's how they perceive your leadership. Are you comfortable with that? And sometimes, I'm not going to bat 1,000. Nobody is.
Of course.
Like some people are like, well, I'm going to keep doing that. Okay.
Yeah.
You know exactly what you're going to get.
Interesting.
Sure.
Yeah. But then sometimes you do get some change, right?
Oh yeah, more often than not.
Okay.
Again, engaging a coach. Go back to fitness. When you hire a personal trainer who knows what they're doing in their field, it would be crazy to ignore them.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I have a trainer that writes all my programming, and he is marvelous at it and tells me I'm one of his more consistent people. And my first thought is, why would they keep paying you if they're not going to do it?
Yeah.
That makes no sense. Because it's all customized for them. We're not all getting the same workout.
Yeah.
We're not all getting the same notes.
That's amazing what people will do that. I mean, you spend the money, you spend the time, you take up the other person's time. I guess you're paying them for it. So ultimately it's only hurting yourself. But
well, in business, we know that some businesses are, they design in a throwaway price of the way, and because we're both in the CrossFit community, CrossFit is not organized that way. It's not priced that way.
okay.
So a lot of gyms are, the $10 a month places.
Sure.
Because they know, they factor that in of a certain percentage are never going to show up, and they need them to not, because the facility can't handle all the numbers that actually, like if everybody showed up, they don't have
the place would fall over.
Right.
Yeah.
So they design it that way. The people I'm working with do not have businesses designed that way.
Okay.
You don't, I don't, they don't.
Yeah,
so
you need that for sure.
Generally they're not of a mind of, well, you know, that where they're just going to skip appointments and that sort of thing. We move them, right, because
life happens.
They're busy and life happens.
Sure.
I understand that, you know, they found out they had to travel the day before our appointment. I understand.
You've been
I've
there
lived
before.
there.
Yeah. Interesting.
In the same nature of there's a lot of times where we have to meet outside of banker's hours.
Yeah.
Because that's when it's quiet and they can focus. And
do you see that a lot? I didn't mean to cut you off, but you know, one thing that I've been kind of looking at and researching a little bit are the times of day that people work, right? And I don't know if this is something that you touch on, but you know, I have. When you mentioned it at the beginning, right? You find your flow, right? And I'm not quite as up on that as some people, probably not nearly as up as you, but I have found, and it's always interesting to me to find like the times of day when people have the most or the least creative energy, right? It's like, I'm a morning person, can't help it. As soon as the sun pops up, I'm up. Just it's how it goes. So
Sure.
I have more of that. I have more creative energy, and I'm able to get a lot more done in the morning. By 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm down the hatch. Is that something you work with people on, or
we talk about it?
Talk about
for sure,
it.
because
Not a huge component.
It is.
Yeah.
It is a huge component in how they organize their day. For the entrepreneur, solopreneur, business leader who is the owner. Depending on the business, they can have a little bit more control over that. For corporate leaders, a lot of times their calendar is at the mercy of whomever it is they're reporting to.
That makes sense.
Because it is.
Sure.
So, yes, I do have clients that are like me and like you, morning people. Like, oh, hey, you know, I hate to ask, can we talk at 6? Yeah, I will have been up for 2 hours.
Yeah. I am thoroughly caffeinated by 6 a.m. We're good.
Where, thankfully, some of my night owls are actually in much later time zones. It works out beautifully for both of us. It's really awesome.
I'd be happy to take that call at that time.
Ooh, I hate to ask. That's not even dinner time here, so
you're
we're
good.
fine. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
It's absolutely real.
Okay.
And it's important, again, flow is all about creating how can I work more, but how can I bookend. So an analogy, and if they have any background in CrossFit or any fitness where they have a fixed time frame to complete something, then they'll understand, hey, you know, if I bookend you and say you have 12 minutes to complete this, it's as many things as you can get done, and it's 12 minutes. Well, I'm going to take 20. No,
you're not.
You're going to take 12. Whatever you get done is what you get done. And if I create that, it's amazing how people will leaders will start to make better, cleaner decisions.
Really? So by the reduction of available working time, they're better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Where'd you learn that?
My own life of when I got into CrossFit.
Okay.
All of a sudden it was I couldn't hit the gym at 4 because, you know, the earliest class was 5. So that meant, you know, 5 to 6 is the class. I'm not going to get to work till 7:30.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there was one thing. So then it was like, okay, well, then I can just make it up in quotes, right? And then Mark and I started hosting foreign exchange kids.
Okay.
So, you know, we're parenting, and we had a rule of everybody lands at the dinner table by 6.
Okay. I love that.
Don't care what you're doing.
Yeah.
Just you, no devices, at the dinner table every night.
I love that so much.
And that created another bookend. So if I had homework to do, then I would have to do it like when the kid did his homework.
Sure.
So when I had a bookend on the front, I couldn't get to work till 7:30, and I needed to be, you know, done for the most part by 5-ish to get home and
get dinner on the table or do whatever.
Right, so that we all converge in the kitchen, get everything going, and get seated. All of a sudden, I structured things a little bit differently. Just like we do in a workout. So if we have a workout and I only have 12 minutes, I don't put the rower on the other side of the gym from the pull-up bar if those are my two moves.
Sure, so you're not wasting time.
Exactly.
Okay. I
And
love
all
it.
of a sudden it starts to force me to think smarter. So CrossFit became a great metaphor for a great many things in leadership.
Sure.
From community, of everyone comes along, period.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, well, I'm not done. We're right here with you.
Yep.
We'll be here. We're
Finish up.
Nobody's moving.
Yeah.
No one's touching. We're not
Yeah.
putting anything away. Let's finish it.
I've been there.
Let's do it together.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No, I love that.
Great metaphors for how to bring things together.
Yeah. And I love the part about thinking smarter as well, because, you know, I think in any business, and I haven't been in nearly as much of the corporate world as you have, but, you know, systems and processes are something that I've always struggled with because, you know, blessing or curse, whatever you would call it, I know how to do a lot of things. And when I watch someone else try to struggle through something that I'm like, give me the hammer, get out, right? But that's not the way to get things done. But the part that you mentioned about, you know, processes and streamlines, you know, if you need these two objects and you have to use them both, don't put one over there and one over there. Put them here.
Sure.
You know, I mean, you don't want to take 30 seconds to cross a room when you can walk 2 steps. Doesn't make any sense. So.
You know who almost always has all those answers? The front line. The
Really?
front line always has the answers.
No
'Cause
kidding.
they're the ones talking to the client every day. They know how the work gets done, and they know what the client says about it, and they know where every client, customer, member, whatever
Wow.
we call them, whomever is the person
Down there in the trenches. Yeah.
has all the information you need.
No kidding.
And Bob Sutton, he wrote my all-time favorite business book, and
Which is what?
The No Asshole Rule.
I love it.
And corporations love his book and hate his title.
I'm sure they do.
Dr. Sutton teaches at Stanford University. I think he's an organizational psychologist. I forget his exact degree.
Okay.
He's well known.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, he's pretty well known. I think it's bobsutton.net if you want to look
Okay.
him up. He does all kinds of great research, and I recall and I don't remember which one of his books it's in. It's not in the first one. He does a little bit of research where he goes into a corporation, and we have this group of various levels of leaders, including executives, frontline employees of varying levels. Breaks them all out into table groups so that they're balanced.
Okay.
Right, there's a executive and a whatever the entry level equivalent
Sure.
is at every table.
Okay.
And
I love it.
They have to solve a problem.
No
and
kidding.
he briefs them each separately. And one element of the briefing is whomever the lowest perceived rank at the table is gets the answer.
Really?
And his instruction to them is, you may not tell them you have the answer, but you can do everything else to try to get them there.
Oh, that sounds like chaos.
Right. So, and of course, the revelation is exactly what you asked. As many times as he's done this, far more often than not, I don't recall the exact percentage, it's high. The highest ranking person always overrides the lowest ranking person that has the right answer with the wrong answer. So it's a great metaphor, and I always share that with every client.
Sure.
Just remember,
Yeah.
the answer is probably outside of your head.
Yeah. And maybe simpler than you think.
Far simpler.
You know, I mean, it's like you sit the C-suite guy down with the forklift driver about getting the boxes on the truck, and it turns out you just need to put them on the truck.
Right.
That's it.
It's that.
Oh,
That comes up quite a bit.
yeah.
Just that kind of simplicity.
That is fascinating.
I would imagine on some level, and my background's not research, so I'm
Okay.
not Brene Brown. She's a researcher. I'm not Adam Grant. He's a researcher. I'm not Bob Sutton. He's a researcher. Plenty of researchers. That is not who I am. I've been in business, so it's more of a pragmatic. We still have to keep lights on,
Sure.
keep payroll going. We have those sorts of things, but we can make micro shifts all
Okay.
along the way.
Interesting.
Right, it's not, for instance, I was just writing a little piece up. Gallup, this was 2018, said our workforce is more engaged than it's ever been. 34% are engaged.
34.
34%.
That's the peak?
Yeah, wow.
Oh, my God. God, no wonder I didn't last
That's a low
long.
bar.
Very
That's
much
a pretty
so.
low bar. And, you get an organization that uses that survey, and they get 44, like, phew.
Yeah, we're awesome.
Look how good we are.
Huh.
Look how good we are. So we come back to the scale piece of, hey, you need 3 people to 1 just to get engaged. What if you just took your team, figured out why they weren't engaged, and fixed that?
Wow. Because then, yeah.
Right? So if you look at if you plot, if you've had any length of time working, and you plot how many people you've worked for, and come up with your criteria for who's a great leader and who's not.
Sure.
Because we have, there's sort of the normal curve. And you have the people that are phenomenal at what they do. They're amazing. They nurture, they grow, they develop, and they know the business. They go on one tail.
Yeah, they're outliers for
Unicorns,
sure.
sure. The unicorns. And then it plots pretty normal from there.
Okay.
Right? There's nice people that don't really know what they're doing, so we tolerate them. Right?
You were in corporate America a while, weren't you?
There's people that aren't very nice, but they know what they're doing. Like, well,
sure,
she's got all the answers.
Yeah.
And everything in between.
Of course.
So my premise is, if I'm a C-suite executive, I'm like, how do I get scale? It's not necessarily, another software package per se. It's look at your leadership. If you tolerate normal, you're missing the boat, because that's why your engagement's low.
Gotcha.
If you're looking at a normal curve, and if you look at what Mike Landers is doing, the 20%,
sure.
Well, that's going to be the first 16% is innovators, early adopters, and innovators are your first 16%. That's called the tipping point.
Sure.
Any product is. Simon Sinek does the piece on this. That's tipping point. Add another 4, and those are your people that are on their way to being extraordinary.
Okay.
So what's all the rest? And that's part of that.
Sure.
Are you holding people? Is there a collective accountability to great leadership?
Sure. What's your standard? In other words, are you going to go with on par for the whole world, or are you going to be better than that?
And it's not the dollar sign. It's the how you got there.
Okay. Interesting.
And that's you see that in business all the time. Well, I can't get rid of Darwin. He's my top producer. Go back to Bob Sutton's work.
Sure.
And that's his work is you tolerate the one, and they will take down everyone else.
That's the cancer in the rose, if you will. So interesting, because I've been in and out of the startup world a couple of times. I'm in the real estate business, so I've worked in a couple different offices of the we buy houses cash type outfits. Everyone loves to hate them, and data marketing and telemarketing and all sorts of technology behind that. And got to watch 2 companies, rise, explode, come back out of the ashes, and kind of do the yo-yo thing from startup. And a lot of what you're describing with the engagement is, now I'm looking back on it in hindsight in 2020, and I've had some of those people on the show here. We've sat and had a beer and talked about the rise and fall of everything, and the engagement thing makes a lot of sense at this point, because there were times, when we acted like a team. We started off in one girl's literally started the company in her living room. All of us on laptops, screaming in headsets, doing the thing, and grew it a lot. But the engagement would fall off a lot of times, and that killed everything. People didn't want to come to work. You could hear it. We had call centers as well. You could hear it in the tone of voice of the call center reps and that kind of stuff. Back when I had to do this for a living, tone of voice and energy and all this on the phone is huge, right? I mean, it's hi, how are you doing? You can't have Eeyore on the phone, because nobody wants to talk to that guy. You need the good energy. You need someone who sits up straight in their chair and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's really interesting with the engagement.
And that's the big difference between corporate world and entrepreneur world is small businesses. That's where market forces clean that out pretty quick.
Sure.
Because a poor leader who is an entrepreneur, they'll experience so much turnover that they won't be able, unless they're a solopreneur, and then they just won't have a lot of customers, and eventually the market will push them out of the business.
Yeah.
Where in corporate America, it's that other side of the normal curve. The bottom 20%.
Yeah.
Plus maybe to the halfway, plus the mediocre. Well, it's in their best interest to keep things exactly as they are. So, I've asked people over the years, So how is your turnover? Oh, we're a little bit better than industry average. Well, I know what industry average. So we're slightly to the right of mediocre.
Yeah.
But still mediocre.
So how much, and just as a question, I've trained and run teams for other people. I've never had a big one of my own. Thank God. I probably have less hair on my head at this point. Do you work with as I've heard this question posed, where the cost of onboarding or firing employees, right? So and the reason I ask is that I was a trainer for teams, right? So I was given anywhere from 3 to 12 people, and I had to teach them how to do a skill, right? Which was buying property off market and all the things that come with it. But as the guy who is responsible for training, it's a pain in the ass to bring a newbie up to speed. And nothing against them, right? I didn't know anything when I started either. It was, what do I do? But bringing someone up they were paying me, they had materials, we had time, we had computers, we had all the things that go with it. Is that something that people in your world are focused on, the cost of turnover?
They are. It doesn't always come out as, hey, I'm worried about turnover.
Oh, really?
They don't say it that way.
Okay.
It's, I lost another person. So it's...
And what should the response be, just out of curiosity? It's not, I lost another person, but...
It just, that's always 4 more questions from me of, did you want to lose them? Because sometimes they were,
sure.
They were such a thorn in my side. So it's, I lost another person. That's different.
Got it.
Right.
Okay.
There's categories of all right. So this person's been a thorn. Let's dissect why. Was that a bad hiring choice? And sometimes it's, I have a couple of really with it leaders. I have more than a couple, but one said, it occurred to me, the process that we use now for every single employee, she didn't go through. Okay. So your process works.
Yeah. So you just have to stick with the program and you'll be all right.
Right. Don't get in a hurry. Don't shortcut, because it's a timing issue of, I got to get somebody in here. Well, you get the wrong somebody.
That's 3 steps back versus...
Especially and Bob Sutton will tell you, and you accidentally hire the asshole and your whole team...
Sure.
You create an inflection point for your team of, I was happy, but now that I'm responsible for this person, maybe it is time to look around.
God, I could tell you exactly who that was in the first startup office. I remember I wanted to toss that kid off the balcony. Just right? Like, I am not responsible for this knucklehead.
Right. So that's one. The other that is more where we have some of the real conversations is, I lost so-and-so. I lost Jane. Oh, where'd she go? Competitor. Oh, but it's a really good opportunity for her. Wasn't this your star? Oh, yeah. Jane. I've been working with Jane for years. I've been mentoring Jane. She's been in my, on my 9 grid, up at the top right.
Wow.
Okay, so you screwed this up. No, it's a really good opportunity for her. No, it was your job to keep her. All those years you've just put in with Jane
are gone.
Yeah,
you gave them to your
competitor. Now has an new in the box.
Yeah.
Right? New in the box at half the price.
Wow.
You didn't get any of your investment.
That's got to be a tough realization.
Well, there's a lot of silence because the first but
yeah, the famous
I didn't have anything.
Yeah.
Were you asking around? Were you working that?
Sure.
It's not easy.
Of course.
But they have some ownership. And then there's other businesses that by design, there's more of by its nature, it's on its way. People come in and...
Sure. The 3 to 5 year run onto something better. Sure.
And, for those leaders, they embrace that of typically this is how long people stick around, and I'm going to help you be as awesome as you can possibly be while you're here.
Interesting. Yeah, so it's more about the fundamentals of the business.
Sure.
Because something I've seen a lot of in my world is the people who tend to do well are the ones who cultivate a sense of ownership of problems, right? So where it's not so-and-so did this to me. It's, okay, this happened. Why? What part of it did I have? What am I in control of? What can I fix? And then there are obviously things outside of my control. If it rained and the thing and whatever, can't do anything about it. But, I'm always curious about kind of what makes that distinction with people, right? So there are those who wake up in the morning and they own their situation. And then there are those who wake up in the morning and run through their day figuring out who to blame for their situation. And it's always a question. I've talked to a lot of people in the business world. It's like, are you born that way? Did you cultivate that skill? Can you buy that skill? What's your take on all that? So I'm sure you've seen both.
Yeah, you've seen both. It's sort of like, people that are born into extraordinary wealth and do nothing with it.
Yeah.
And people that are born into extraordinary wealth and build on it in a way that serves more than ever.
Yeah.
Charles R. Schwab, Chuck, was born into extreme wealth.
I did not know that.
Dad was quite wealthy.
Okay.
And Chuck Schwab of the firm Charles Schwab is extraordinarily focused on the everyday investor, of how do we serve the everyday investor.
Really, and that's his whole that's their focus.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Focus, yeah. So there's lots of examples of that, and then there's others that came from next to nothing and built extraordinary lives. Dr. Condoleezza Rice is a great example. If you've ever heard her talk about her background growing up in Alabama, I think.
Yeah, Oprah Winfrey, I think, has a very similar story.
Yeah.
Grew up in a horrible little town in the Mississippi Delta, and
that
now she's
personal
Oprah.
accountability. So some of that's parental.
Okay.
Right? Because Dr. Rice's parents, I think she was asked, the question was, what did your parents teach you? And she said, my parents taught me that other people's perception of me didn't have to be my story.
So very good parents.
Right?
Yeah. Wow.
And look what she did with it. So whether you agree with anything she did is irrelevant. It's she's quite accomplished in her life.
Sure. Going from where she came
lot.
from to where she is now is incredible.
As did Miss Winfrey, an actual self-made multi-billionaire.
Yeah, she's done quite well for herself. So what it seems like what you're saying is that tends to come from within. That sense of.
Yeah,
is that something you see people learn, or are you able to coach them through that if they don't have?
Well, I think emotional intelligence and empathy can be learned.
Okay.
And I suppose there are some that they just don't get people.
Sure.
Like even when we've walked them through, well, your team is responding this way. Well, why would they respond that way?
Okay.
And we've just lined it out. They just don't get it. But there's others that they have the aha moments, lots of them.
Makes sense.
And it's like, oh, okay. It's a subtle shift, and all of a sudden the perspective they get is one of understanding others.
Gotcha.
So
how to speak that other language.
How to speak the other language.
Okay.
And how to, and being aware of, I grew up this way, and that's part of my lens too.
Sure. Yeah, your own kind of perceptions and what you bring to the table.
Exactly.
Interesting. So one other thing I wanted to ask you, and this is switching gears just a little bit, because I know you and I've touched on this conversation, and I know it has to do with a lot of different entrepreneurs. And so you were in the corporate world, right? And then you've made the jump to having your own business, right? You did that also while married, correct?
Yes.
So
we still are.
Yeah, and that's the incredible part, right? Because I hear this a lot from people where you have two people in a relationship of whatever the nature is, married, living together, significant other. Sorry about the background noise. But where one person wants to make that leap, right? Maybe they haven't done it yet. They're thinking about it. They've got a dream. They're miserable in their job. The other person is perfectly fine being a corporate type. How did you two make that decision that you were going to make the leap and they were going to stay at their job, or vice versa?
Well, it was, it was a conversation. That's the first part.
Okay.
So I think So
what does that, and pardon my answer, what does that conversation look like? Like, hey, I want to quit my job, or?
Well, no, it was, there's, it's, hey, I got to get out of here.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Sure.
Like, really, this is, did what it came to do. I think we can do what we want to do in a different way and a lot faster. Right? Living up here in Paradise was going to be a retirement gig.
Okay.
And clearly I'm not retired, nor is he. So it was multiple conversations of what might this look like.
Okay.
And a lot of talking to other entrepreneurs of how is this going to work? Because leaving one corporate gig recruiters have a sixth sense for when somebody's leaving. So all of a sudden,
so the phone started ringing.
So the phone started ringing. Like, okay, so I'll go on some interviews. Why not?
Sure.
And there was one opportunity in particular that was really intriguing. And would require a move for me, which we've done before. We've lived apart before. That's part of building corporate careers, etc. And my spouse, Mark's question was, "Is that what you want to do? Is that what you want to do?"
That's a very
so
intuitive question,
right? It's always about, well, what do you want to do? Because he knew that whatever I wanted to do, I would be all in on. Like, well, I think I'm going to start whiteboarding my own business. And as I wait for just the right thing to come along, I'll have this other business ready to go. And then we realized, again, my professional career prior to this was in financial planning. I am a certified financial planner. It's not like I don't know how to put all that on paper.
Sure.
And it's like, hey, we could move to Sedona, get rid of the Phoenix house, reduce the overhead, and all of a sudden my own business is much more viable.
Interesting. So it's almost a collective where it's like, okay, this is I call it life overhead, right? You gotta sleep somewhere. Eating is nice. You need a car and a gym and all the other stuff.
Right.
So then it's almost like a business conversation where, okay, we can make this move. It will reduce the overhead this much, and then you've got. I mean, did you do it? Because I know in startup world, right? So you raise some money, you've got a company, you're like, okay, we've got 12 months of runway, right? We can pay the bills for 12 months, and then we got to get profitable. Is that how you did it, or?
Yeah, to be blunt, I sold all my corporate stock.
I love
and
it.
that was the bridge for transition from Phoenix to Sedona.
Okay.
And then, I mean, there's only 3 ways to build a business, right? You either already have your own cash, you borrow it from someone else, or you have a spouse and it's a partnership, which is still the same thing, right?
Sure.
You just have to figure that stuff out.
Okay.
So that's what we did, right? The corporate stock is this much, and then once that overhead's not there,
is that a tough discussion with your significant other?
No, he's the complement of my style.
So that's
it's mathematics. It's all a logical conversation.
Okay, so it wasn't a big emotional discussion
for me.
No. For you it was, but not for him.
Right.
Interesting. I feel like that's one of like the curses of entrepreneurship is, it's like your baby, I'm so, and the other person's going, okay.
Yeah, I'm on board. Yeah. It's
how many times did he have to tell you that before you heard it? Like, hey, I got this?
Quite a few.
Yeah.
Quite a few. Like, I'd replay it in my head. Because early on he said, look, what you really need to get over is I don't care how fast it grows, it's never going to be fast enough for you in your own mind. Just whatever it is, I just know it. And you're going to have to be patient with yourself.
Yeah.
And Michael chuckles because he'll say, hey, how's it going? I'm like, yeah, I still have more space on my calendar. It's good. Because everyone knows.
Sure.
That's the nature of it.
Of course.
In talent dynamics, Roger James Hamilton he levels out entrepreneurship in terms of 0 through 10.
Okay.
And 0, 1, 2 is 0 is you have your LLC with no customers. That's
yes,
1.
Been there.
And then 1 is your first 5 or so clients, and level 2 is your first 10 or so clients. And all of those clients come from your own world, your own network, or referred by your own network.
Okay.
And then it's about launching into the next piece.
Gotcha.
So my natural network was always good and always has been because of what my profile is. I know a lot of people. I've worked a long time in the industry, so.
Sure, and I mean, financial planning is ultimately a people business.
It's a people business, and I understand how to. Financial planning is. Where are you now and how do you feel about it? Where do you dream about? And both mathematically and emotionally, what's the journey to get there? And that's what executive coaching is all about.
Oh, same thing, huh?
It's the same thing. There's a financial component and there's an emotional component. And and it's how you help people bridge through that.
I should probably hire you at some point.
Probably should.
We'll talk about that off camera.
So I remind myself of that. Mark is extremely supportive of me.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't, this is our 22nd year together. So
Wow, congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So it's not like we don't know what makes the other one tick.
Mm-hmm. So then it's just a matter of more or less like dredging up the courage to have that conversation, or I know some people's significant others will drag it out of them. It's like, oh, hey, you're miserable.
Yeah.
Knock, knock.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, because I know I've just had that question posed to me, and my significant other is love her to death. She's a wonderful girl, but loves her job, gets and just tick-tock. I mean, you could set your watch to her, right? And we're very different in that capacity. Mm-hmm. It's not a bad thing, but it's taken some adjustment in terms of our relationship, and we live together and all of the things that go with it, where it's like, no, it's okay, or sometimes it's not okay, and you have to work it out to be okay.
Yep.
But I hear that from a lot of people who are in the entrepreneur world. Their significant other might not be, or
yeah. So here's what I'll say about this, because I see this a lot more often. Mm-hmm. People that would like to make the leap and do their own thing. Mm-hmm. They don't talk to their spouse, not because they're afraid their spouse will say no. I think they're afraid their spouse will say yes, and then they're out of excuses.
Yeah.
Like, now what do I do?
Yeah, I got to do it.
I think that's internally a much bigger
Yeah.
hurdle. And there's probably some other aspects. Again, no background in psychology, sociology, none of that.
I think that's just human nature.
Yeah.
I mean, and my world, the real estate world is full of this, and I don't know how finance is. I don't have enough experience with it, but the real estate world, where I got started in the wholesaling, like we buy houses cash, all that BS. That industry is pitched a lot as, hey, change your life, right? Are you tired of working at Burger King? Mm-hmm. Come, I'll teach you how to flip homes, and blah, blah, blah. So it's all about those people who are scared to make that leap, right? And then some people do and fall flat on their face, and some people do and succeed wildly, like any other business. Mm-hmm. But I do see a lot of it where, people will come to me. I've taught a lot of this material, how to do this, how to do that, and they come to me and they'll discuss the idea of coaching or training or something like that, but they haven't had that conversation with their significant other. Mm. And I've had to be candid with a few of them. I said, listen, you're not going to make any money for 4 months. You're going to spend money. Are you okay with that? And by the way, you also have to pay your bills. And I'm just being realistic with you, but I know in a relationship that can cause a lot of strain. I had a pretty steady Eddie working dad, and my mom has a more entrepreneurial streak, and there was some friction there, to say the least. And so now when I see that question posed, it's always interesting to get someone's take that you've made the leap, and like I said, you're 22 years in, clearly something's right.
Right.
But that making that leap, I love what you just said about, now they're out of excuses, because it can be really scary.
Right.
Because
I've also, I've heard enough spouses that, my own included, of do it, man. Having you happy every day, priceless.
God, right there, we're done. Turn the camera off. Yeah. No, and that's really, really important. Because I don't know how it was with you, but for me, the few jobs that I've been through, I wound up miserable, mm-hmm. And even as hard as, I've had some rough patches in the business, like everybody does, and problems here and money there and blah, blah, blah. But the satisfaction you get of just seeing something grow, and being able to come home every night and not stare at the ceiling and wonder, why the hell can't I get out of this? That's powerful, and
yeah. I guess I find it, again, I've got the one aspect of what I always enjoyed, which was connecting with other people, mm-hmm. and helping them figure out that, I think a lot of people need to hear that who they really are, not the stuff they memorized that they're supposed to say in front of meetings, mm-hmm. but who they really are is probably the genius. Not probably, it is the genius that
mm-hmm.
will unlock all the rest of their potential.
Gotcha.
So it's digging down into that, and then, and especially, not especially, but business leaders in general, mm-hmm. helping them understand each one of your team members is holding back a little for no other reason they don't think it's okay to be, like, to give you the rest. That's that engagement piece. You get all of that. First of all, you bring it all, and they will too.
Really?
Oh, yeah. That's been my experience.
Yeah, the reciprocity thing.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's, I think people aren't worried that the robots are going to take over their jobs. I think they're worried that robots already took over the leaders. Because they hear that same script over and over.
Sure.
And over. And I did this for one of my clients. He said, I think I'm going to leave my industry. Why? Well, we just got a new regional executive or whatever their title was. I said, can I guess what the speech sounds like? I'd just like to. Because it's so programmed.
And no one believes it.
And everyone, it's a shared experience of lies.
Yeah.
So stop it.
Yeah. Well, that would explain the 34% baseline engagement right there.
Yeah. Again, it's plus R for real. And then the X factor. Help people be far better than you. And acknowledge that if you're an effective leader, your team is comprised of people that are far better than you at various
and could theoretically run without you for some period of time.
Like they stay for the experience of being in that team or in that group or in that business.
I mean, and being part of a well-functioning team, it's so awesome to do. I mean, you've been there. I mean, I've been there. I hope everybody gets a chance to do it one day. But there was a brief time when we had this one startup where we were firing on all cylinders. Boom, boom, boom. It was so cool to watch. I mean, revenue went through the roof. All of our bonus checks went up. Like everyone was at work early. It was a really, really cool environment. And then it wasn't.
Yes. But I think anyone who's at least spent some years working knows they've got at least one special leader that just seemed magic to them. Like, wow, they get me. They could say anything to you. It really is much more akin to parenting. That level of unconditional love that. And I do this for the corporate executives because I know their lingo pretty good.
Okay.
I said, hey, you have kids, right? Yeah, I've got kids. So would you ever say to your kid, listen, Darwin, I'm putting you on this PIP, this personal improvement plan. It's not corrective action. It's because I care about you.
You already lost me.
But I need your Swiffer skills to improve immediately and substantially. Or, I don't know, maybe this family's not for you.
Yeah.
Preposterous. It's ridiculous. It's the dumbest thing ever.
People do that?
Yeah, that's kind of how the conversation goes.
Oh, Jesus.
But here's and usually the immediate objection is, well, there's certain incidents. I know we can put an asterisk for theft and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, there's the horrible ethical stuff, which then leads me to why'd you hire them? Sure. But again, going back to the sports world, somebody that's much more in tune with all the stats, how many times has a quarterback that's horrible on one team, they've lost half their games or worse, they go to another team and that team goes to the Super Bowl? Sure. So is it really the player?
Yeah. What changed?
What changed? Not their skills.
Yeah, they didn't wake up the next day being able to throw 10 more yards.
Right.
It's not how it works.
It's not how it works. And again, there's the focus on leaders.
Yeah. Interesting.
Are you truly invested? It's not if you've spent time in leadership. There are times where you have to let somebody go because you didn't hire them correctly or whatever it is. Sure. Yes, there are certain. The vast majority, though, they're only 34% engaged. And if you can really dive in and bring their magic out, make it safe for them to be them. Sure. You will be amazed at what they will come up with.
Huh. Yep. That is fascinating. I mean, I believe it 100%. I've been a part of the good ones and suffered through some of the bad ones.
Sure.
And,
applies to solopreneurs too.
Yeah. How so?
Because if people say, well, I'm not a leader, or I'm a solopreneur, I only have 2 people in my company. You have customers, don't you?
Yeah, you do. You also have. I mean, in my world, it's mostly vendors, right? So I have legal people I need to deal with. I have bankers I have to deal with. I have a CPA. God bless her. If you're watching this, we love you, Jennifer. Keeps me out of trouble with the government most of the time. Any trouble I've gotten, it's probably my fault. But you do have a network of vendors and people, and you have to, they got to perform. I mean, I get you paid them, and that's great. But they still have to get their job done. Yeah. Tax returns don't get submitted. I mean, I had a CPA that we used to work with, and I'm still getting calls from the Department of Revenue about some $17 issue on something somewhere, and I can't just give them $17 and have them go away.
No.
That's not how that works.
And especially in your business, your relationship with vendors can impact significantly your profit margin.
Yeah. And ability to get things done.
Right. And it doesn't take any more time to be kind than it does. A lot of people think that, and that's, I'll end with the name of the business is New Tough Leader, because people think being tough is about being difficult and horrible to people, being stern or threatening, carrot stick, all that kind of stuff. It's not. It's a much tougher enterprise to be consistently kind, caring, and coaching through difficult times.
Sure.
But the long game is you can pick up the phone, continue with your example, you can pick up the phone with a whole multitude of vendors that will be very flexible with you and show up on a dime because you've done them right.
Yeah.
And that's the point, is do people right, and the long game works out. So maybe you missed a little goal on one quarter, but boy, over the course of years, you will more than make up for that.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, playing the long game. It's beautiful. Ken, thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that was awesome. Oh, guys, appreciate you watching. Until the next one, go check out Ken. You said New Tough Leader?
KenKilday.com or NewToughLeader.com.
Beautiful. Go check him out. Thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Be good. Thanks again, Ken.
Thanks, Darwin.
Cheers. Thank you for listening. I really do appreciate it, and I hope this episode was helpful for you. For more content, please find me on YouTube or Instagram at Darwin Crawford. I look forward to the next time sharing an experience and a beer and a story with everyone involved. Have a great one.